is here for you. It helps you in all you do. It helps you know you do. So tune in and now enjoy the fun. It's time for English, everyone. Studio Classroom is on the air. You can watch it everywhere. English is the way to go. So join us now, enjoy the show.
Hey there, welcome to Studio Classroom. You are just in time for a good time. My name is Gabe.
And I'm Anne-Marie. Thanks so much for being here, friends. Today, as usual, is a great day to learn something new.
It really is, so let's do that together. Before we get into our lesson about flashpacking, I have a question for you. Talk about your best travel experience or one of your most favorite travel experiences. Anne-Marie, do you have a travel experience that you really like thinking about and remembering?
Yeah, I sure do. I have a lot of really good travel experiences, but I think one of my favorites was when I went to Indonesia by myself. It was really the first time, except for coming to Taiwan, where I traveled to another country just to travel and see the sights. I met up with a friend from college there, and we went to Bali, and it was just a really special, memorable experience.
Oh, that's really great. Speaking of Indonesia, actually, my siblings and I took a trip to Indonesia.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of the most memorable travel experiences I've had as well.
Now, memorable could be a good thing or a bad thing. Was your memorable trip a good trip or a bad trip?
It was good overall. Some of the people in the trip, one of my in-laws got sick.
Oh no.
A little bit. But, I mean, overall, it was a good trip because we got to experience a new place together, the island of Lombok, and then we went to the three tiny Gili Islands, which was a really fun experience. I would recommend anybody go. But yeah, that was a fun experience, and that was a fun travel experience that I have fond memories of. Friends, do you have any fun travel experiences that you can talk about? Make sure to talk about that in English sometime. But right now, it's time for us to get into our lesson about flashpacking. Here we go.
Flashpacking. Explore the world in style. It's vacation time, but traveling on a shoestring isn't your favorite way to go, and cookie-cutter resorts don't excite you. So what's the answer? Flashpacking. It's group travel, largely for singles, that's been described as backpacking with style. A few years ago, Radha Vyas discovered a gap in the group travel industry. She realized there wasn't anything for her age group, 30 to 49-year-olds.
Hi everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 我们先来看 gap 这个名词，它的意思是缺口、差距。譬如 After a 10-year gap, Hillary went back to teaching 6th grade math. 时隔10年后 ，Hillary 又回去教6年级的数学。或者是 The gap between the rich and the poor is getting wider by the year. 贫富之间的差距正在逐年扩大。再看一句 Sandra's moved to Hong Kong left a huge gap in her friends' lives in Singapore. Sandra 搬到香港后，留给住在新加坡的朋友们生活中很大的空白。
Thank you so much, Jack. Okay, let's get into our lesson about flashpacking. Explore the world in style. We read, it's vacation time, but traveling on a shoestring isn't your favorite way to go. Well, what does that mean to travel on a shoestring? That means you're traveling on a shoestring budget, okay? And that's a phrase that we have that means you are trying to save as much money as possible. You're not, having a luxurious vacation by any means. You're finding the cheapest hotels to stay in, the cheapest ways to get around, because you don't have a lot of money to spend if you have a shoestring budget.
That's right. And here we see, and cookie cutter resorts don't excite you. All right, so I get the idea here that some people, they like to travel very, very cheaply if possible. And maybe some people like to have very, very expensive vacations where they are staying at resorts and enjoying their time there. But the reason they might not like these is because they are cookie cutter resorts. Now, a cookie cutter is a little piece of, it's usually metal or plastic, and what you do is you push it down into cookie dough while you're baking, and it makes a certain shape. So maybe you have a star-shaped cookie cutter or a heart-shaped cookie cutter, and what happens is every single cookie looks the same.
And that's okay. When you're making cookies for people or you're eating cookies, you don't care that your cookie looks exactly the same as somebody else's. However, in other situations, this is kind of a negative thing, okay? If something is described as being cookie cutter, that means it lacks originality or uniqueness. It doesn't really stand out. It's the same as everything else. And it's true, a lot of resorts around the world can be described as kind of cookie cutter. There's nothing really that makes them stand out from each other. There's another thing we'd like to talk about in this section. It's the word largely, okay? This means mainly or mostly. You could even say in large part. Here's another way to use that word. The new movie was supposed to be popular, but it was largely unnoticed.
All right. Well, we have more to learn about flashpacking in just a moment, right after this.
Hello friends and welcome to another episode of InfoCloud. I don't know about you, Zach, but I am ready to live it up this weekend.
That's a great phrase, Rex, to live it up. What does it mean?
If somebody wants to live it up, it just means they want to spend their time in an incredibly enjoyable way.
For example, this weekend, Rex has a lot of social engagements and parties to attend, so he plans to live it up.
That's right. What about you, Zach?
This weekend will be busy, but more with work and appointments, so unfortunately, I won't really be able to live it up like you.
Oh, that's too bad.
I'll tell you what, as soon as I finish up all of my work, I'll give you a call and we can live it up together.
Hey, that sounds great.
Hey, Rex, what does somebody do if they want to live it up, say on vacation?
When I go on vacation, I like to bring a good book and rest by the pool and live it up.
Oh, okay. So people live it up in different ways, I guess.
我们在努力工作或是读书的同时，也要懂得停下脚步，品味生活。今天要跟大家分享的用语是 live it up。live 是生活 ，live it up 就代表在某种程度上享受生活。例如 ，After I finish work, we can live it up together。我完成工作之后，我们可以一起去享受一下，或是去狂欢一下。Live it up 这个用语给人一种好好生活的含义，不过比较偏向于放松与享受，而不是努力追求什么目标。有些人喜欢去度假，有些人喜欢跟3、5好友聚聚，不晓得你是用什么样的方式 live it up 呢？这就是今天的 InfoCloud， 我们下次云端见。
Flashpacking. Many travel companies offered cheap trips for young backpackers. Others offered luxurious vacations for wealthy senior adults. She didn't fit in either category. In 2012, on her first date with her future husband, Lee Thompson, she shared her discovery. Radha believed creating a travel group to meet the need could be a great business venture.
OK， 接着来看 luxurious 这个形容词，意思呢是豪华的或是舒适的。譬如 Our friends invited us to visit them at their luxurious villa in the south of France. 朋友邀我们去他们在法国南部的豪华别墅玩。或者是 The furnishings in our hotel room in Thailand were very luxurious. 我们去泰国住的酒店房间里的陈设非常豪华。再看一句 Amanda's blouse is made of luxurious cotton and silk blend. Amanda 的衬衫是用十分舒适的丝棉混纺布料做的。
Thank you so much, Jack. All right, so let's continue with our lesson here. Many travel companies offered cheap trips for young backpackers. Now that word cheap, I think it's a good thing. I think it's good not to spend too much money on something. It's nice to find cheap products. However, that word cheap can kind of seem negative, can't it?
Yeah, if you say it's a cheap trip, you get the idea that maybe the hotels you aren't staying in maybe they're not the best, and the food you're eating isn't super high quality food. Sometimes if we're trying to avoid that negative idea that comes with cheap, we use the word affordable instead.
Affordable is a good word to know, friends. If you can afford something, it's within your budget, then it is affordable. And of course, it's not too expensive. Another great word for you to know we've talked about before is the word inexpensive, okay? It does mean cheaper than expensive, but it doesn't sound as bad as the word cheap. I think our lesson really is trying to communicate, though, that for some people, these trips really can seem kind of cheap, and the quality is not that great. We read others offered luxurious vacations for wealthy senior adults. And this person didn't fit in either category. Let's talk about the idea of fitting in.
Well, if you fit in somewhere, it means that you meet the requirements or you are like every single other person or thing in that category. So we have two categories here. We have cheap trips for young backpackers or luxurious vacations for wealthy senior adults. Maybe she isn't a young backpacker and it doesn't really sound appealing to her, but she also isn't a senior. That's usually someone over the age of 65. In fact, it says that this group is 30 to 49-year-olds. So as you can see, she doesn't really fit in to either of those two categories.
That's right. Well, of course, we find out in our lesson that she met her future husband, Lee. They shared something in common, okay? It sounds like he shared her vision when she started to talk about her thoughts about this, and they started a great business venture together. Now, a venture, you could kind of think of it like an adventure because there are risks involved. You're not sure what the outcome is going to be, but you're stepping out and doing some kind of business with a business venture.
We'll learn more about what that venture is in just a moment. Right now, it's time to go to today's fun fact.
Hello, friends. I'm Detective Ernest Finder, and here is today's fun fact. Did you know that a pack is something you carry on your back, but it is also a verb? The verb pack means to collect things, to store them for travel. Or to send someone packing means to kick someone out. That's right. But pack is a useful word for other things too. It can describe a group of things, a pack of wolves, or a pack of cards. So you could say, I packed the pack of cards in my backpack as the wolf pack sent me packing. That's a pact. I mean, that's a fact.
Flashpacking. Upon hearing her idea, Lee agreed that it could work. By the end of the night, the couple had developed an initial idea for flashpacking. Their goal was to provide adventure travel with a touch of luxury for 30 to 49-year-olds. Within a year, They had established their business, Flashpack.
接下来看 adventure 这个名词，它的意思是冒险。譬如 When Bill and Audrey lived in Asia, they took many adventure vacations. 当 Bill 和 Audrey 住在亚洲时，他们参加了许多有探险性的旅游。或者是 Bill and Audrey's children have the same sense of adventure that they have.Bill 和 Audrey 的孩子们也和他们一样有同样的冒险精神。再举个例句 Biking around Europe was a great adventure for the high school graduates. 骑自行车环游欧洲对高中毕业生来说是一个伟大的冒险之旅。最后来看 flash 这个字，在文章中是形容词，意思呢是昂贵或是豪华的。例如Teresa bought a flash new sports car to celebrate her promotion. Teresa 买了一部豪华的新跑车来庆祝她的升迁。Flash 也可以当动词，意思呢是闪烁。例如 Bob's eyes flashed with anger when he found out someone had hurt his little brother. 当 Bob 发现有人伤害他弟弟时，他的眼中冒出了怒火。Flash 也可以当名词，有闪光或是快速的意思。例如 The children finished their lunch in a flash and ran back outside to play. 孩子们迅速吃完午餐，又冲到外面去玩。
Thank you so much, Jack. Okay, well, it sounds like Lee agreed that her idea could work. By the end of the night, the couple had developed an initial idea for flashpacking. Anne-Marie, this was, it says on their first date.
Yeah, it sounds like they were talking about starting a business venture during their first date.
Yeah. And
That's interesting to me.
It is really interesting to me. It sounds to me like they had a really good time and maybe the sparks were flying already. Have you ever heard that phrase?
Yeah, I have. If the sparks are flying, it means that there's a lot of chemistry between them. They're getting along really well. And it sounds like that's exactly what was happening here because they both had this idea. They were really on the same page and they thought about this business venture together.
That's right. Now, we usually use the phrase, the sparks were flying, to talk about maybe when two people first meet or the first couple of encounters seem really, really energetic. And, you know, like Anne-Marie said, there is chemistry between the two people. It doesn't usually have to involve a business venture or talking about business plans, but there's definitely some romance building, right, when the sparks are flying. This can also be used to describe like maybe a really lively argument.
Oh, yeah. It could be the opposite of romance, too, right? If two people are really angry at each other and they're arguing and other people around them think, wow, that is a really heated argument, you could also say the sparks are really flying.
That's right. Well, there's something else we want to talk about here. Their goal was to provide adventure travel with a touch of luxury. Now, a touch of here is like a little bit of something. So they're definitely going to experience adventure and maybe even the feeling of luxury. There's a touch of luxury. You could talk about a touch of other things. For example, that person had a touch of blue in her eyeshadow. Think of another way you can use that phrase. Within a year, they had established their business, Flashpack. And that, of course, is what we're talking about with Flashpacking. We have more to learn about their business tomorrow, but right now it's time to hear what you said.
What you said.
It's time to hear what you said. Okay, we had some questions about travel. Lots of people love traveling. Well, our first question was, what's your favorite way to travel? Of course, this was on our Instagram, sc.hosts. Okay, what's your favorite way to travel? We gave you 3 options: alone, with friends, or in a tour group. Guess how many people prefer traveling alone? Only 22% of people prefer traveling alone, 69% prefer traveling with friends, and only 9% prefer traveling in a tour group. Well, I kind of understand. I don't really prefer tour groups myself. I prefer traveling with friends. Here's another question we had. Where do you go when traveling? Here were the options. New places every time, or my favorite old places, my old favorite places. 74% said they prefer traveling to a new place every time. Do you prefer cheap or expensive vacations? 66% said cheap vacations, and 34% said expensive. Have you ever been backpacking? Well, it was almost 50-50, okay? So 41% of you have gone backpacking before, and 59% have not. I would be among that second group, maybe one day in the future. All right, now on to some of these interesting responses about your best and worst travel experiences. What was your best travel experience? Well, Fueling says 40 days solo traveling. That sounds really cool. I'm sure you met a lot of cool people along the way, even though it was solo travel. Ken says a road trip from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. in a week. So going from the west coast of the United States to the east coast in a week. I'm sure you saw a lot, but man, that is fast. Okay, Tina says Korea with a college friend, no special plans, just relaxed and did some shopping. What was your worst travel experience? Well, this is interesting. Traveled with ex-boyfriend. He was either drunk or sleepy during the trip. That does not sound like a good travel buddy to me. Come on. Okay, someone else argued with their friends about places and plans the whole time, and someone missed their final flight, and so they had to pay an extra 50,000 NT just to get back home. All right, well, what are your best and worst travel experiences? Did you relate to any of these? Of course, we would like to hear your answers next time, so be sure you're joining us on sc.hosts. All right, it's always fun to hear what you said. And now let's talk about something that appeared in our lesson today. A few years ago, Radha discovered a gap in the group travel industry. It just kind of made me wonder how many businesses come about or come into existence because there's like a gap in the industry or a perceived need.
That's a really good question, something that's very interesting to think about. Sometimes businesses are literally created not necessarily to make a lot of money or because someone thinks, oh, this would make me a lot of money, but because they see a need and that ends up being very lucrative or able to make a lot of money for them. It reminds me a lot of a company called Redbox, and this was kind of a company that existed right before Netflix. And what would happen is sometimes people wouldn't be able to go to the movie theater because they weren't able to afford it, or maybe they didn't live near a movie theater or a DVD rental place, and maybe they weren't paying for online streaming yet. So Redbox was literally a vending machine where you could pay like $1, USD $1 for a movie to rent it for one night and bring it back and put it back into the vending machine the next day.
I think another issue was those other rental stores like Blockbuster weren't open 24/7.
That's right.
But Redbox was always there. It's like a vending machine and it's always open.
So it was really filling a need that people had because they wanted to watch movies, they wanted to watch them right now, and maybe the only time they could drop off the video was like 6 a.m. or something like that on their way to work the next morning.
Exactly. It kind of reminds me of that phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. A lot of things are around today because people at one time in history saw a need for something and they went to go fill that need with their skills or with their gifts. Maybe there's a need or a gap that you can fill. Think about that, maybe talk about that in English. We'll see you next time for more about flashpacking right here on
Studio Classroom.
A good friend lasts a lifetime. I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.